to Officer Birmingham.
Good afternoon.
City of New York has agreed to pay out a total. City of New York has agreed to pay out a total.
Okay, carry on.
Good afternoon. City of New York has agreed to pay out a total of $583. City of New York has agreed to pay out a total of $583 for the false arrest on January 1st, 2012 of 14 Occupy Wall Street activists. On that date, police accompanied a march from Zuccotti Park as far as 2nd Avenue and 13th Street in Manhattan. When the march reached 13th Street, uniformed officers and scooters surrounded the marchers. Police then issued an order to disperse. This was a constitutionally unlawful order, as the video clearly indicates that the march was not yet blocking the sidewalk, and just minutes before this unlawful dispersal order, the police had ordered the marchers to keep walking. In the period after that dispersal order was made, the NYPD committed a second violation of the plaintiff's rights by failing to grant a reasonable opportunity and path to disperse. After this arrest, each of the plaintiffs was held by the police at the 9th Precinct for approximately 5 hours before being released with desk appearance tickets. The New York County District Attorney's Office declined to prosecute all 14 of the plaintiffs represented by Stecklow, Cohen, and Thompson, in this case, Jennifer Pete et al. v. the City of New York, 12 CV 8230. The case was filed in November of 2012 and was slated to go to trial before a federal district court judge, Shira Scheinlin. The court was resolved through settlement. Each plaintiff has received amounts ranging from $5,000 to over $20,000. And the attorneys of Stecklow, Cohen, and Thompson will receive from the City of New York $333,000 in attorney fees and litigation costs. This is the largest single case Occupy Wall Street false arrest settlement to date, and the largest single case Occupy Wall Street settlement in New York City to date. Lead counsel on this case for Stecklow, Cohen, and Thompson was attorney David Thompson. The City of New York was represented by the New York City Law Department. It has been my extreme pleasure to have met David Thompson when he was a law student applying for a summer position in my office. Hiring him was one of the 2 great decisions I've made in the growth of my law office. Ladies and gentlemen, Counselor David Thompson.
I'd like to say that I'm very pleased that we were able to achieve this successful result for our clients in this case. I applaud my clients and everyone else who has the courage to go to the streets, to go to our parks, to attempt to make our city and our world a better place. To date, the New York City Police Department has arrested more than 2,600 people associated with Occupy Wall Street in Manhattan alone. The vast majority of these arrests were for minor violations such as blocking the sidewalk or allegedly blocking vehicular traffic. The vast majority of these cases were dismissed, indicating that the people arrested were in fact innocent of the conduct charged. The mass arrest of nonviolent protesters has no place in any democracy. Arresting nonviolent protesters helps to protect the true wrongdoers, who are the people, politicians, and institutions that have corrupted our economic and political life. The NYPD pursued a policy of arresting thousands of people who were doing nothing wrong. I hope that the resolution of this lawsuit will show that the NYPD policy must change. It is my hope that this case and others like it will free our streets and parks for peaceful protests so that the plaintiffs in this case and others like
the City Council to take the lead and ensure retraining takes place. I applaud all those participating in Occupy Wall Street, both in and out of New York City. Those that were part of this case and those that were not. I applaud them for standing up for what they believe to be right, and by doing so, putting themselves in harm's way. For the participants in Occupy Wall Street, standing up often meant facing harassment or arrest by the very people who are supposed to protect their rights. I especially want to thank both my associate Isaac Myers and my partner David Thompson for the hard work, long hours, and fortitude required to litigate this case to success. I hope that this settlement is but a first step in the marathon towards the end goal of a city where all can exercise our constitutional rights without fear of retaliation, retribution, or arrest. I had the privilege of meeting City Council member Adonis Rodriguez a few years before he joined the City Council. Of course, it was related to expressive speech activity and civil disobedience. Some years later, I was very excited to see Adonis Rodriguez at Zuccotti Park very early on during the Occupy days. Adonis personally suffered false arrest and physical violence by the NYPD while present at Occupy. It is my honor and privilege to introduce Russ Murphy, the Communications Director from Adonis Rodriguez's office. Mr. Rodriguez is a friend to Occupy, a strong voice in the City Council for the rights of the individuals, and a great City Council member for the citizens and residents of Northern Manhattan. Ladies and gentlemen, Russell Murphy.
Unfortunately, the councilmember couldn't be here today. He's had a meeting uptown, but I just want to read a brief statement on his behalf. I am pleased the city is finally beginning to acknowledge the gross misguidance of police tactics during the Occupy movement. As someone who experienced the results of these tactics myself, it means a great deal that the city is working to make the many victims of this behavior whole. We must re-examine the actions of the NYPD during this pivotal time in our city, as is necessary any time a person or group of people's constitutional rights are violated. This movement was about pointing out the infections within many of our hallowed institutions. Yet, they were met with a symptom of the very disease they sought to remedy. If we are going to move forward as a society, we must respect and take seriously any redress of grievances of our public. It is what this country was founded upon, and they are the rights we must always seek to protect. I will continue working with my colleagues to bring transparency to the NYPD, and we as a city must question why these measures were taken against peaceful protests. We must also continue to work for a greater future by continuing to question these institutions, as we only seek to improve them for all. Thank you very much.
Next, we're going to hear from a couple of the occupiers who were arrested or part of this case. First, we're going to hear from Jennifer Peet.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Peet, and I was falsely arrested on January 1st, 2012, while engaging in a peaceful march associated with Occupy Wall Street. I want to thank you so very much for being here and giving me this opportunity to speak. Occupy was and is a demonstration of the disillusionment and sorrow that many of us feel about America, a forum for people to express themselves. We came together representing a variety of communities and backgrounds, and being out there with our commitment to each other to be part of the process to create change, to speak out about the inequity that exists in this country, and to work together to create a better society. A better country that truly represents all of its citizens, not just those in power. It's disappointing that this made Occupy a target for the questionable law enforcement tactics, such as those which led to my arrest. Public speech, the right to dissent, these are core values that are important to our democracy. And I hope that this settlement will lead those in power and the NYPD to better respect our First Amendment rights. I'm really pleased with the resolution of this matter for the settlement that's being discussed today. And I want to thank David Thompson, Wiley Stecklow, and Isaac Myers of Stecklow, Cohen, and Thompson for their diligence and incredible work throughout this case. I'm inspired by their dedication and their commitment to fighting for justice for all people.
Thank you. Our next and last speaker will be Garrett O'Connor.
I'd like to first thank everybody for coming to cover this important event. My name is Garrett O'Connor, and I was one of a group of Occupy activists that was falsely arrested on January 1st of 2012. 2011 was a very big year for the Occupy movement. We started moving towards cultural change, moving towards getting the word out there that we need to stop putting profit over people, to stop forgiving corruption. And we were out there on that night to celebrate our 2011 and to send the message that we weren't done, that we would last through the winter, and that this was a movement that is going to continue until we reach our results. On that night, the effects of that night were chilling to people who need to express this need for change. But through this case and through this settlement, through the work of Stecklaw, Cohen, and Thompson, through Wiley, Stecklaw, David Thompson, Isaac Myers, and Sam Cohen, they gave us the support that we needed to be able to take on this challenge. My hope is that the result of this is that the NYPD will rethink how they treat protest, how they treat First Amendment expression. And I'm encouraged by it. I'm encouraged also by I think what this does is add to the redemption of Occupy Wall Street, of the identity of Occupy Wall Street. We've often been seen as out of control or disorderly, and this is a demonstration that it was quite the opposite. We were out there to send a message, and our rights were suppressed. Thankfully, in this case, through the work of Stecklaw, Cohen, and Thompson, we were able to get to a fair result, and we're encouraged to move forward. Thanks for coming out.
We're going to take a few questions if there's any out there right now you'd like to ask.
Matt Sled with the Huffington Post. Did the city admit any wrongdoing, and did you seek for them to admit any wrongdoing during the settlement negotiations?
This was settled through a Rule 68 offer, which is a federal rule that allows the city to make an offer of judgment for a certain amount to the plaintiff, and then negotiate attorney fees secondarily if that's accepted. So in that matter, there is no room for negotiating specific terms other than whether or not the plaintiffs are ready to accept the amount being offered by the city. So, as in most settlements in the city, there's certain documents that are required to be signed. We did not have to sign those in this one because it was an accepted offer of judgment, but I'm sure that there is somewhere in the documents that will say that they do not accept liability, yet I think the numbers stand to speak for themselves.
Can you go more specifically? You called for retraining of police officers. Can you go about a little bit?
Well, as we saw in this case, and we have other cases in the office that Mr. Thompson has been involved in,
Speak up a little bit.
and Mr. Cohen is we have other cases in the office, and we see time and time again in depositions of high-ranking police officers that there are times where people that they understand the law, they understand how constitutional rights are supposed to be protected on the streets of New York, yet they are not doing that, and they're not training the younger officers in what to do. They're training them in what not to do. They're acting inappropriately, the senior officers, and that's being seen on the street by the younger officers. So they need to go back into the academy, in the cadets, and make sure that they're being trained properly on expressive speech activity and how time, place, and manner restrictions work with First Amendment rights. That's just simply not something they're training, or if they are training, they're not doing it properly.
How many plaintiffs were involved?
There are 14 plaintiffs in our case.
Hi, I wondered, you mentioned that all the charges were dismissed. Were those dismissed outright, or were some of those ACVs?
They were not dismissed, they were declined to prosecute, which is indicative that somebody in the district attorney's office reviewed the facts as told to them by the police, because at that point they don't speak to anybody else. And simply the facts as told to the DA's office by the police indicated that there was no probable cause to make arrest here for any crime.
How many were men and how many were women?
Sorry, I'll pass this to Mr. Paul.
I would have to stop and count to give you the exact number. I believe it's about half and half.
And were they all from New York?
They're not all from New York. Some from California, some
From where? From elsewhere?
from elsewhere.
Other states, other cities?
other states. And I'd just like to add one example of the sort of training that I believe is required for the NYPD in order to police public demonstrations in a manner that respects First Amendment liberties. A lot of police officers that I have interviewed in deposition believe that if I have to step to the right or to the left to walk past you, then you are committing disorderly conduct. And that is just not the law. And if that were the law, we would all be under arrest every single day when we get on the subway, when we walk down through Times Square or anywhere else. That view of the law is enforced only in the context of public protest. In other words, there is a more stringent requirement placed on people who are protesting than people who are not protesting, and it should be under the Constitution the exact opposite.
There should change the rules that were passed during the Bloomberg administration about how many people could protest before they had to be licensed.
Hi, I'm Sam Cohen from Settlment, Cohen & Thompson. The rules regarding assembly and protest that were discussed in the Bloomberg administration were never fully enacted. There is no numerical limit for requiring a permit for particular forms of protest and assembly on New York City streets and New York City public property. New York City parks do have their own regulations for assemblies of over 15 people. One more question.
Can you just describe what exactly they were doing when arrested? Can you go through that again?
Our clients were marching in a very loose formation up 2nd Avenue on the east side of the avenue heading north. There was, video reflects that there was plenty of room on the sidewalk for other people that were using the sidewalk, of which there were many. It was New Year's Eve. As they approached the corner of 9th Street and 2nd Avenue, they were told by Deputy Chief Teresa Shortell to keep walking, keep walking. And that is, in fact, what they did. They kept walking. They continued north, and at 13th Street and 2nd Avenue, the police caused the marchers to stop by physically blocking the sidewalk in front of them. When the marchers came to a stop, the police deemed them to be blocking the sidewalk, surrounded them, ordered them to disperse, did not permit them to disperse, and then arrested them. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for coming out. There is a press release that's being distributed along with a link to edited together video of the incident, combining citizen videos and police TARU footage of the incident that breaks out the narrative of the case. That will be with the press release. That will also be on our website, lawyersfortherestofus.com, very shortly. Thank you all for coming out. We're going to have time for some limited one-on-ones, but we're going to call the conference to a close at this time. Thank you.
Yeah, we had one of our clients is from upstate New York, one is from Pennsylvania. These are younger people that are involved in protest and their lives, and they move around. Some of them
Well, it was an order to disperse without any way to do that, without any way to exit.
Why was there not a way to exit?
We were really surrounded on all sides, from what I could see by police.
Police on motorcycles, police on foot, what?
Both.
Okay. And what time was this?
I'm not sure about the time.
It was after midnight?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The early morning hours.
Yeah.
So tell me, when you're surrounded by police and told to disperse, and you said that you have nowhere to go, what were you thinking?
Well, there were a number of experienced activists in the march. They were doing the right thing. They were asking if they were being detained. They were trying to figure out what was going on with the situation. And it was the same for me, asking for, if you're telling us to leave, where is the road?
And they surrounded you, and they handcuffed you at that point? Or?
Yeah, it was just after asking how to exit, I was grabbed, thrown to the ground.
You were taken to the 9th precinct?
That's as far as I know. I'm not really familiar with the precincts. I remember what happened and where I was, but I'm not really familiar with it.
How long did you stay there, and where did they put you?
It was, so